Subscribe and click the notification bell to stay updated with the latest videos from School of Technology, Management and Engineering and MIMS Indore.
A very good evening to one and all present here. I, Shachi Malvia, on behalf of School of Technology Management and Engineering, NMIMS Indore, welcome you all to the second season of Sunday Tech series. As we know, knowledge is of no value if you don't put it into practice. With the idea of sharing knowledge and explaining how to implement it, the students at NMIMS Indore came up with the idea of hosting a series of webinars introduced as Sunday Tech Series. This is the third session of Sunday Tech Series, and this time we are collaborating with Sequator, the Data Analytics Club of NMIMS Indore. Before we move ahead, I would first like to explain the flow of today's session. Up front, we have a question-answer session with Mr. Janak A, Jain, who is also alumnus of NMIMS, our industry expert for today, which will help us all to enhance our knowledge. This webinar will cover the fundamental concepts of artificial intelligence and machine learning along with Python, through which we will acquire knowledge and skills of this domain. Through this webinar, the students will be able to solve a linear regression problem using Python and machine learning concepts. We will conclude the session by conducting an MCQ-based contest through which you will get a chance of winning some really exciting prizes. Attendees are requested to keep in mind that after the completion of the session, a feedback form and a quiz link will be floated in the chat box, and everyone is requested to fill it as certificates will be provided on the basis of submission of these forms only. Moving ahead, currently working as data scientist at McKinsey Company, New York, United States, today we have the honor of welcoming Mr. Janak A. Jain as our industry expert. He has been focusing on solving problems for clients in the financial services space using data science since March 2018. He has also worked as data analyst and research executive for Quartz and TNS respectively. We feel privileged to have you today with us, sir. I will now request Akshat Khandelwal and Avisha Vijayvargi for the further proceedings. Over to you, Akshat and Avisha.
Hello, sir. We welcome you again to the third session of Sunday Tech Series, Season 2. We'd like to thank you for joining in today's question answer session, an interesting and engaging platform where we get to know your views and opinions about some important questions commonly asked by students.
Firstly, we would like to ask, how are you doing, sir? Hope you and your family are keeping well in this pandemic.
I'm doing really well. First of all, thank you so much for welcoming me for the session. It's always great to come back to university and provide whatever help I can. I'm doing pretty well. The weather here is quite nice. The summer has started. So the snow has gone away and the weather is lovely. My family is also doing very well. Thank you very much.
That's great to hear, sir. So shall we start with the question answer session?
Absolutely.
All right, let's begin with the first question that we have for you. You work as a data scientist in McKinsey. Can you tell us more about your role?
Sure. So given that McKinsey is a consulting organization, my work as a data scientist there actually treads two parts. One is the technical and the second one is the consulting skill set. So I typically spend 70% of my time working on technical things and 30% of the time on the other. The technical part includes data engineering, getting the data, asking clients for the data, processing that data, visualizing and like preparing the outputs and all of that. And then on the other part is the consulting skill set, which I think is really, really necessary. That involves and that includes speaking with the client servicing team, the clients themselves, translating requirements from one place to another, creating that communication channel between the tech team and the consulting team. So that's broadly how I would structure my time at the firm.
Oh, great. That really sounds quite interesting. We are sure we have people in our audience who want to work as data scientists too in the future.
So our next
Absolutely.
question for you is, can you share your experience about the AI medical chatbot that is Medibo?
Sure. So Medibo is actually short form for medical bot. And that was one of the capstone projects for my degree in data science at Columbia. It was not just an individual effort. Let me be upfront with that. It was a team effort. And the way we developed that chatbot was using Python for natural language processing. It involved a lot of components, but what made the project very interesting was that it was not just about data science. It was actually about building the entire product, and that entailed involved there was one data science pipeline which included natural language processing to to convert the incoming messages from users into structured data that the program could understand. But there were two other components to it. One was some kind of development which also included Python, but was not exactly like data science per se. It was creating that communication channel of SMSs between the user and the server, and that we did using something known as TWML. It was available through a package known as Twilio. So although not completely data science, our knowledge of Python actually helped us do that. And the third component, I think, was user experience. And that was very interesting to learn because as data scientists, most of the times what happens is that we are very we are very separate from how the product is actually implemented. But that gave us a chance to peek into the nitty gritties of who's going to use the chatbot, how are they going to use it. So designing things like onboarding experience and making sure that we're able to identify who a new user is, all those kinds of things. So that was we spent around 2 to 3 months developing that product. And we did it, I think, over like 4 sitting sessions because everyone was in different classes and nobody had the time. But it was a very, very nice experience.
That was very insightful to hear. Since you mentioned about Python and how it has been a significant player in the making of the chatbot, can you tell us some of the other areas in your field where Python is used?
Absolutely. So apart from like the core data science, which is machine learning, and for which we use very commonly known packages like scikit-learn, matplotlib, and so on, Python is actually used for a lot of other things. And the reason for that is that Python was never supposed to be like a data science language. It was a scripting language. So it basically developed on the intersection of developers and data science. So to give you an example, for example, we used Twilio, which was a service, and then it had a Python package, and that gives you the ability to actually create and send SMSs and messages and WhatsApp messages, Facebook messages, and that gives you an ability to develop chatbots. Although it's not completely data science, but the knowledge of Python can help you do that. There are some other places where Python is being used, for example, by a lot of astronomical researchers. They use image processing data to identify any kind of new stars, for example, distance between two celestial objects. Python is also being used by geologists to identify specific spots where they can actually mine for oil and some other specific minerals. And there's a rationale for that, but we can talk about it later. But yeah, Python is like in a lot. It's all out there in the field. It's being used for a lot of different things. You can use it for automation. You can use it for scraping the web, and then it's a long list. We can cover it when we have the time, maybe in a separate question.
That's great to know, sir. We now understand how important Python is in this field and every other field that is possible.
I totally agree. Even though Python is a general purpose programming language, it is very easy to learn and highly preferred these days. It can be used in so many things. And we are so interested in creating interactive applications like chatbots.
Mm-hmm.
So moving ahead, our next question for you is, sir, since machine learning has been trending for so many years, can you tell us to what extent do machine really understand the world?
So machine learning, this is a common myth. Machine learning actually enables, it's ultimately just a computer program. So it does not actually understand the real world scenario or the data like we humans do. The machine learning code or the program is only as good as the training data set that you give it. So if you give it 10 examples of doing certain thing, the 11th time is going to do exactly that based on whatever it has learned from those 10 examples. So it's not going to learn something new on its own like we humans do, just out of general curiosity. But I think we're getting there. There are a lot of teams who are working on some kind of cognition capabilities for computers, but I think we're still like quite a bit far away from there. But to answer the short answer is that they actually don't understand the data and the world. They're only as good as the training that you give them.
Yes, that is very true, sir. Akshat, what did you understand from this?
According to my knowledge, artificial intelligence is giving machines the ability to seem like they have human intelligence. The more we teach and feed them, the more they comprehend. And while we're talking about machines and AI, sir, our next question for you is, what is your advice to the students who want to excel in this field of AI and ML, and what will make them ready for the industry?
I think something that will make them very industry ready is one, I think, is key component, which is knowledge of Python, because it's the de facto standard in the industry. It recently replaced R. So definitely that, because that's the core technical skill set, hands-on thing that you need to know. Apart from that, just having a knack for data is very important. Knowing that just applying machine learning algorithms and knowing about machine learning algorithms is not enough. Having that critical point of view about data is very important. I, for example, was not that great a data scientist when I joined the firm, and this is something that was very helpful for me when I joined the firm, because it's a consulting space. It's not like a tech industry and tech company where all that matters is tech and how we're able to do things, but a very critical view of data. So when I was working with teams, I realized that I had to take a step back to first understand what's the problem that we are trying to solve. Is it going to, like, whether or not I build the machine learning model, is it actually going to solve the problem? And a lot of times the answer was no. It could have been done very easily in some other manner. So just having that knack and point of view for data is, I think, very, very critical, because there are so many people in the market, there are so many people in the industry who can do almost everything that you can do. So the only differentiator sometimes ends up being how good of an eye that you have for data, while reading data, while actually like translating requirements, trying to understand what kind of a model, what kind of a problem we are trying to solve.
Those are definitely some golden words, sir. We do improve day by day if we keep learning and having the knowledge of Python core skills and having a gist of data, which you said. We're sure our audience will keep these points in mind.
Okay, so let's head to our next question. Some students are not confident in coding, while some do not have the appropriate knowledge required for it, but still want to pursue data science as a career. So what is your take on it?
That's a very interesting question, actually. So we're talking about two buckets here. One is like not knowing enough coding, and the second one is not knowing enough theory and books. If it's any consolation, not just for myself, I think anyone and everyone who's in the field of data science, at some point they fell into one of these buckets, if not both. In my case, I knew coding from my school days and my college days. So I was a little comfortable there. But spending two years in the industry after my MBA tech, I was almost as good as any old person in coding. So I would say I was 70% on coding, but almost like literally 10% on the theoretical part of knowing about machine learning and data science. And here I am. So if that's any consolation, if that's as an example, that should not hold you back. We can talk about like very specific action points later in a separate question, but that should not hold you back, is all I'm trying to say. That there are definitely ways to work on things, and then there are people in the industry currently that I see who are very, very strong in machine learning knowledge and are applying data science in big companies. And in the same companies, there are other data scientists who come from very different fields like biology, chemistry. Some of them even come from humanities and arts here in the US, but they're still doing data science for finance and data science for the medical industry. So I mean, like, does not matter where you're coming from, as long as you're interested, there are opportunities for you, and you'll be able to work your way through.
You're right, sir. And the fact is, there's always going to be a heavy need for data scientists in the industry. These are some very important skills one should possess to enter the world of data science.
True.
So the next question for you is, You have also worked as a marketing consultant. So can you tell us
Mhm.
about some of the projects you have worked on?
Yeah, sure. So when I was working for TNS in India with the Kantar Group, I was part of the primary research team, the quantitative research team. And at that time, retail was like really opening, retail research was opening up in India. And it was of a lot of interest to, international FMCG companies because they were trying to understand the Indian market and the Indian psyche of the consumer, which I mean, like all their Western models failed to apply to India because they tried to run some kind of promotions in the US. They worked really well, but they tried to run the same promotions in India and it completely failed and doomed because, of course, like the Indian consumer is very different. So at that time, there was a lot of interest around knowing the consumer psyche. So that led us to do a lot of projects related to habits and attitudes. It's called an HNA study, habits and attitude study, in which you try to understand what are the habits of people who purchase. So at that time, I mean, like data science was still not in the industry. So we used to have like printed books and used to keep them at homes. And then the housewives or whoever was the main, decision maker for a purchase, they used to literally mark everything. Like today, I bought like 2 packets of milk or like 1 packet of cereal. And we used to analyze the data and see what's the spending pattern, what's the purchase pattern of different households, urban versus rural in different cities of India, to give a sense to our clients exactly how things are happening at the Indian households. Another type of study, which was a very interesting one, and I think that was like something that got me interested a lot in data science, was the eye tracking study. So there's a company called Tobii, TOBII, which used to provide us with uh, uh, like what do you call it, like eyewear. It's a special type of eyewear containing like cameras and all, and then you're supposed to wear it, and then the respondents, we used to provide them to respondents, and they used to walk across the store and shop normally like they usually do. What the eyeglasses used to do is that they used to track your eye movement, and using like technology and then using some image processing, we could, for example, tell that if you're looking at a particular shelf, what part of the shelf are you looking at, what are the products that you looked at. So that helped us I like give very beautiful insights to clients. Another very interesting branch that I personally used to like a lot was ad testing, advertisement testing. So a lot of companies, for example, Britannia, Nestle, all these companies come up with really interesting commercials, right? But usually the way they record the advertisement is that it's like a very long video, and they send it to an agency, and then they ask them to test the ad. And we using similar like eye tracking technology, we try to see and identify what part of the ad do people like look at more intently, and what are the parts that people actually don't like pay attention to. So we used to give them a creative input of like, maybe remove like between second 34 and 35 seconds, just remove this bit because it's not important to your brand image and people are not paying attention. That was like really creative way of doing things. But I'm sure now things have changed. Well, it's more data science. Data science has entered that field as well. But yeah, in case if you're interested, I can give you more information, but I won't belabor the point.
Sure,
The
so we
projects you
want
mentioned sound very interesting, like the consumer understanding, the eye tracking, and the advertisement analysis. We can
Mhm.
imagine how knowledgeable and productive these projects have been for you.
So, sir, our next question for you is, as we all know, AI is growing rapidly in the market. So, according to you, what is the upcoming big thing in AI?
I think AI has had its own like ups and downs. To be honest, like uh, it's very. I mean, like in communication, and if you read in other places, ML and AI are usually confused and like they're usually mixed together. But AI is very different from ML, and AI had its like beginnings in 1990s. It came up as like the next big thing, and then it completely died down. It tanked, and then it came back again. Then it completely tanked, and then now like people are treading the space where do you actually need AI or do you not need AI? So I'm not sure, like I'm probably not the best person to answer it. The next big thing in AI is I think going to be more about research and trying to, build cognitive abilities into machines. But as far as the industry and the products that we are currently offering are concerned, AI is just limited to like chatbots and like just providing additional service. But I'm sure in the years to come, since a lot of things are going to be automated, machines are going to replace a lot of manual human jobs. In that space, I think there's going to be a lot of development in AI.
So
we also heard about reinforcement learning and its growing use in the market today. So can you give your opinion about it?
Yeah, reinforcement learning is essentially like there's a feedback loop that gives you that gives the machine learning algorithm some kind of input to improve. And one very simple way of knowing that is like cases in which the data is streaming and you need to continuously tune your machine learning algorithm so that it keeps on improving and it does not become irrelevant over time. A lot of companies like Amazon that have high volume and high velocity data actually use reinforcement models, but these models are very specific to your use case and they're not very easy to build in the sense that like just coding the model is like easy enough, but just to get there, to just know what kind of things to include, what kind of features to include, it actually includes a lot of PhD people, a huge team sitting there on data for months, thinking about how to build that product. Testing, of course, takes a lot of time. So not actually every company is able to afford that kind of manpower workforce because it's a very heavy cost thing. So currently, I think only very large companies are doing reinforcement modeling. But that being said, there are a lot of other companies in the market who are actually offering that as a service now. So now companies don't have to actually build their own model. They can actually use some of the models that these companies are offering. One interesting point though here, although a lot of models are already available in the market, some of the templatized models, for example, Amazon builds its own algorithms from scratch, and that gives them the edge because that's their intellectual property. So no one can actually replicate it. One very specific example that I learned was about recommendation systems. So it's very quick and easy to build a recommendation system using Amazon data. But the recommendation system that Amazon uses is like there's a separate team that sits and that only works on the recommendation system model. And like very little is actually known about how it ultimately works. But yeah, so yeah, that's that.
yes, sir. And in fact, reinforcement learning will be like the future of artificial intelligence, where we will implement artificial general intelligence to build a single model to master a wide variety of tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So our next question for you is, every job comes along with a lot of pressure and stress. So are you able to manage it efficiently? And if yes, then how do you do it?
My receding hairline will tell you how much stress I have. But no, jokes aside, of course, there's also always going to be a lot of stress, especially once you come out of college and the real world battle starts. It's a part and parcel of life. I also learned it the hard way. But I think I would say there are three core things that help me and that still help me through every situation. One is a very strong sense of self-awareness, knowing what you are, what you're not, knowing what you want to be, what you don't want to be, that kind of a thing. And like it sounds like a joke, it sounds funny, but I think one should really sit down over a period of time and then just it's self-communication and knowing, because yeah, I mean, like I can talk about that later in detail, but yeah, that part is that part is key. Second thing is having a very strong support system in the form of family and friends. So when I look back at my time during my most stressful times, only like a very close knit set of friends and my immediate family, they were the only things that I could fall back upon. And you should never let that go. You should know that you're not alone in anything. And the third thing I think is knowing and realizing that not everyone starts from the same place and not everyone's destination is the same. What I mean by that is usually when we're working in the industry, it's a very cutthroat industry. There's a lot of competition. For example, when you go to the job market, you'll see a lot of folks coming from different colleges, probably, better colleges per se from yours. There's always going to be a lot of stress, like whether I'm going to get a job, am I good enough? Oh, I'm the same age as this person. This person is now a manager. What am I going to do? I'm still an analyst, or those kinds of things. But know that not everyone started from the same place. And even your destination is not the same. Like that person might end up in a different place. Your destination is sometimes, very different. So I think these are the three core things that will ultimately help you reduce your stress. But otherwise, it's going to be a very tough battle.
That is great to know, sir. Like you mentioned, sense awareness, strong support system like family and friends are the key. These are very good points. And it is very important to manage the pressure and stress that comes along with work, because if the stress persists, it can take a toll of your health and well-being. So we're glad you could provide us some tips to manage it.
So our next question for you is, as we know that the coming generation is adopting and relying on technology, so what are some technological innovations that attract you?
Um, I'm not actually a very big proponent of technology. I would be more, I'm more inclined towards science because I think technology is not necessarily doing us all that good that we think it is. But just to answer the question, I think one thing that I'm really excited about is the Internet of Things. So the way that's going to change the way we live is very, very like interesting to see. For example, now we have Alexa devices controlling our home. We have smart homes, we have smart cars, we have smart TVs, and the way they like we're building a web of things that can actually be synchronized and orchestrated together. That's going to ease a lot of our lives, and that I think is something like that. That's a fair trade-off for me. So that's something that I'm more excited about.
It was very good to know, sir. Like Internet of Things, like Alexa, smart TVs, smart watches, smart devices. So IoT is definitely a fascinating tech innovation, and one should always be welcoming and ready to adopt new technologies, because at the end of the day, their purpose is to make our life easier and better.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Now here comes our last question for you. Since you are an alumnus of NMIMS, so can you give us a glimpse about your journey from here to McKinsey?
Yeah, so after NMIMS, I joined the Kantar Group in Mumbai, and I was working there for around 20 months as a quant researcher. And during that time, like I mentioned, like we worked on a lot of interesting studies, including a lot of data. I felt that there was a lot of what to say, redundancy and a lot of manual work that we were doing, collecting data. And I realized that things are changing. There's a in our industry, apart from our industry, in a lot of places, data is automated. You have tables, and people are doing a lot of cool and fancy stuff with data. So I kind of felt constricted, and I felt I was not using my knowledge and skills to the best of my abilities because the industry was like that. And that kind of pushed me to go out and explore exactly what I wanted. Funnily enough, at that time, I did not know what data science is. There was no it was still like machine learning. All of these things were quite new at that time. Although, like, of course, some people were doing all of that, but it was not as common term as it is now. So it actually took a lot of Googling to find out what I was interested in. So I used a lot of vague terms like data analysis, advanced, using computers code. And then I found out, oh, this is what I want to do. This is okay. I have to go for a data science degree. That's what I have to do. Another very important person that I should mention, I think she's on the call here, is my sister. She was the one who pushed me to do a degree right out of college. She had been telling me, you need to go for another master's. You can't just stay here. And I ignored her, which was probably a very big mistake. But she's also responsible for me being here today. So a big shout out and thanks to her. But having said that, yeah, after that, what happened is I looked for colleges, I looked for the admissions process, I applied. I studied for GRE while I was working. I applied for a master's here. I came here in New York to Columbia for a degree in data science. I think that also answers one of the questions here. My alma mater is actually, I think, I would say my alma mater is St. Mary's, my school in Jain, because I think that's the closest to my heart, and that's ultimately responsible for my success. And of course, my home and my family. But yeah, I also went to NMIMS and Columbia. And then after I graduated out of Columbia, I joined the firm straight out of college. In that way, I mean, there was not a lot of transition. It was like just literally NMIMS, job in Mumbai, degree in data science, and then joining McKinsey.
All right, that was really great to hear, sir. With this, we end the Q&A session. Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening words and making this session a very engaging one. It was indeed
Thank you so much.
It was indeed a delight talking to you, sir, and we'll definitely keep in mind the advices given by you.
Thank you so much.
So there are also some questions from our audience. So
Sure. Yeah.
So this question is from Akriti Jain. She says that we are also interested in the field of data science and are looking forward to being hired as data scientists. Drawback is companies do not hire freshers as data scientists. So can you please explain or tell us your journey as finally being a data scientist?
Yeah, actually, that's a very important question. I faced that problem also. Also, especially because I was coming with a marketing background, with an MBA degree, so I was not like a tech person per se. A lot of folks in my batch came from a BTech degree or from a BS degree here who had some experience. So the way I built my resume was I did a lot of there were a lot of assignments at during my masters at Columbia that were very good problems to solve. I put them as projects on my resume. And this was an advice that my career counselor gave to me here at the university. So like it does not matter. Like at that point in my time, there was a barrier in my head that like only when I do a project with a company that's like or an internship, I can call that a project. No. If you just pick up problem and you solve it, you can put it on your resume and you say that that's a project that you did. It does not matter where you did it, even if you did it out of home. So because of that, I was able to build my resume because otherwise I had nothing from my past or my background to put on my resume that was data sciencey. So go ahead and try to solve problems on Kaggle, uh, download data sets, solve them on your own, put them on your resume. Any other problems that you get from your university classes, put them as projects. And then like restructuring the resume is definitely one more thing. And the third thing is like literally hacking the system of recruitment and companies. It's wild here in the US. Getting referrals and creating connections, that's a very key component in landing a good job. So those are like some of the things that you can do if you're interested in data science. And if you don't have any kind of experience, you're a fresher, you'll still be able to land a good job because you'll have experience and you'll have hacked the system.
Okay, sir. Thank you. There's one more question from Harshal Kulkarni. So he wants to ask that how is the working lifestyle in the US different than that in India?
Very different, I would say. One is the level of professionalism that we see here. I'm not saying that we as Indians are not professionals, but it's just the cultural difference. So just to give you a contrast, the office timings in India were also 9 a.m., but even I'm including myself as well. We all used to go to the office by 10 a.m. We used to have chai till 10:30 and then start finally working. And then as soon as it's hit 12:30, out for lunch with folks and then like coming back. Here in the US, it's quite different. People have a very strong boundary of when they want to come to work and when they want to leave. Also, they have a very strong sense of family life and life outside work. So they'll come in at 9 and they'll start responding to emails at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. means 9 a.m. I mean, like they all come in and go at their own time. It's not like fixed that everyone has to be there. But the moment they come into office, they start working. They'll not spend time on other things. That's the first thing about level of professionalism. Also, punctuality is something that I saw was very prevalent here. If it's a 9 a.m. Zoom call, 9 a.m. Zoom call starts, irrespective whether you join or not. That saves a lot of collective time. It was also hard for me to learn coming from India because like we tend to usually join late and like we sometimes don't realize it if we're getting late. So I burned my fingers as well. But once you get into a habit, it's really nice. The third thing is, I think, comfort. I mean, in India, it's a little difficult to juggle with a few things at work, but here the job market is quite open. No matter which university you're coming out of, if you want to switch jobs, it's much more easier here. That way the job market is far better.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much for your enlightening words. We'd like to thank our audience for joining in today's Q&A session. And we hope that this session was helpful for you and provided a clearer path for your journey ahead. Sir, we will be very delighted if you'll be able to attend the rest of the session also, if the time permits you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the entire team. Thank you to Akhil sir. He was the one who introduced me to all of you guys. Really happy to chat. I'm happy to come back whenever you have any questions. Just give me a shout out and just let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Shachi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Akshat and Avisha. With this, we will now begin our session of Introduction to Artificial Intelligence and machine learning using Python. By our session experts for today, Mr. Dhruv Jain and Mr. Jay Sarodi, students from BTech Computer Engineering, third year, STME NMIMS Indore.